Hello and welcome back to the second hour of our show, Wake Up Our Faith. This is the segment we call Faith in Business, focused on helping people live out their faith where they spend the majority of your time. For most folks, that is in business. We're all about highlighting business people, entrepreneurs who are being the good news, or what we say being the church outside of the walls of the institution. Kind of between Sundays, we want to empower you guys to do the same. Appreciate you tuning in and listening. Matt Ham, Kevin Adams, we're the co-founders of Uprint, and appreciate you guys tuning in. Our corporate partners make the show possible. We want to thank them, one of those being Chris Hutchins of Guaranteed Rate Mortgage. More than 20 years in the mortgage business. Whether you're buying a home or refinancing, make sure to give Chris and his team a call, 910-344-0304. So we are joined this hour live via phone, satellite, that sounds cool to say, by Ned Erickson. Ned, are you there?
I'm here.
Hey, Ned, what's happening, my friend?
Well, I'm stuck in traffic at the moment, but I'm hoping to get to a place where I can not have to talk and drive. But
you be careful, my friend. We're not taking on any responsibility there.
That's right.
Much love, much love. Well, Ned, welcome to the show. Welcome to Faith in Business. And I guess we'll kind of kick it off, man, by sharing a little bit just about you, a little bit about your story, and kind of catch the audience up on a little bit there.
Sure. Well, I grew up in the Philadelphia area. I have great parents and a sister, and was raised in the church, like literally in the church. My mom was the part-time secretary, so I used to fold bulletins, and during the church service I would crawl under the pews, and every once in a while poke my head up like a gopher, look around. But I remember early on, particularly the hymns just spoke to me, and particularly the hymn, How Great Thou Art. I remember I couldn't even read at that point, but that song just spoke to me, and we talked about it one night, and I accepted Jesus early on. I spent a good bit of my high school years wandering and kind of living for me and not for him, and had another reawakening in my faith right before college, where I went to came down south for that, and the Lord kind of took a hold of my life, and I've been kind of on fire for Him ever since. I've been thinking about that question about my story, and as I've gotten older, it's certainly true that every couple years it feels like I'm being born again, and I'm entering into another season where I feel like I am discovering Jesus in new ways. So, yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, thanks for sharing. So it's kind of, where are you now? Other than have been saved and being saved and will be saved. I mean, how's that? Tell us a bit about where you are now, what you got going on.
Yeah, well, I would say a couple of years ago, I had been rethinking, reimagining what it meant to work. I'd been in ministry for many years, and really, I think when coming out of college, I had this sense that you could do anything with your life, but if you were really serious about your faith, that the best thing you could do was to be in ministry. And I was good at it. I was involved in stuff in college, and then was able to be recruited to come on Young Life staff, and I did that right out of college. And I thought that was what it meant to be a good Christian, was that the ultimate was to be in full-time ministry. And a couple of years ago, I just kind of understood the gospel in a bigger way, and understood that what the kingdom really is the kingdom is carpenters and businessmen and lawyers and doctors, nurses and baristas and sanitation workers, and that the cornucopia of the kingdom is all of us together. Paul uses the description of a a body. We're all different parts of a body, and it wouldn't make sense if we were all noses. We could smell real good, but that's about it. And so that really shook me. I'm one of those folks who got called out of ministry into the ministry in the marketplace, and now I'm an entrepreneur and run an organization that actually equips men and women to live out their faith, their calling in the marketplace. That's what I'm doing now.
Very cool. Yeah.
Ned, this is Kevin. Nice to meet you virtually.
Yeah.
I hope you're safe and sound. Thank you.
I am. I made it.
Good.
Victory.
All right. Now we can relax a little for you.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. So what you're talking about, I think, is really it's a bigger picture. The description of ministry versus a mission, and I think I'd love for you to talk about that. Your sense of mission versus ministry, and how it all ties together in the form of entrepreneurship for what the world would call social good, but in our circles we call it kingdom work. But just talk about that sense of ministry and mission together from your perspective.
Yeah, I love that question. Yeah, I think I knew this from a early age. You have these that each one of us has these fingerprints, and they're all unique. Each fingerprint is unique, and then recently we've learned about how we have these retina scanners now, and the reason why they work is because everybody's eye is unique. There's never been an eye like your eye ever in the history of the world. There's never been a fingerprint like your fingerprint ever in the history of the world. In fact, there's never been your ear. The shape of your ear is unique. There's never been an ear that's been shaped like your ear in the history of the world. There's no person on earth who can see like you can see, who can hear what you can hear. And each one of us has an opportunity wherever we place our hands. We're placing our own unique fingerprints on this world. And I believe that's on purpose. That God created each one of us uniquely because he has a unique purpose for each one of us. And that ultimately, that number one mission for each one of us is to become that man, that woman that God created us to be. So my mission is to become the Ned God created me to be. Number one mission. I want to be that guy. No one in the history of the world can ever be Ned. That's my job. I've got to learn how to do that. And how I do that can change, So that's my mission, is to help other men and women become the folks that God created them to be. That's what I do. I develop people, them see that true self that God, crafted in them from the beginning. And that's what I do. That's my mission. Now, I do that as the executive director of the Winston-Salem Fellows Program, and I would love to do that next year and years, but 10 years from now, who knows? I might not be doing that, but I do know that I will be helping men and women become the people God created them to be, because that's my mission. That's what God put me on this earth to do. And so that, to me, I think helping people discover their true identity, who God created them to be, what does that mean in terms of your purpose in life? If you can get those things, then it creates this compass for you where you can, look at opportunities, look at things that come by your way and go, okay, does this line up with my mission? So being mission driven, I think, really is a game changer in terms of what it means to live in the marketplace.
That's a great answer, and 100% in alignment with what we teach and every day, both from a mission standpoint and daily ministry work, hands-on, whatever that looks like. So that's beautiful. It's this idea that you're speaking the language, man. It's so good to hear. It's so confirming and encouraging. But there is a vacancy in history with your name on it, and you're God's idea. So the greatest form of obedience is to get on with it, and that's the discipleship process is what opens that up. And so let's talk about that, how you are doing that specifically when we come back.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break. We're with Ned Erickson, Matt Ham, Kevin Adams. This is Wake Up Our Faith, Faith in Business. Don't go anywhere. Back right after this. Hello, and welcome back to Faith in Business. This is the second hour of our show, Wake Up Our Faith. Matt Ham, Kevin Adams, co-founders of Uprint, helping you bridge the gap between Sundays by living out your faith where you spend the majority of your time, that is in business. We have Ned Erickson on the phone with us. We're going to dive right back into that here in a moment. But we want to thank our corporate partners for making this show possible. One of those being Melissa the Coach. Melissa the Coach is a speaker and personal finance coach who helps people live intentionally by teaching them how to manage money the way God intended. We love Melissa. She's a great friend of the show. And if you have any needs in regards to budgeting, financing, Melissa would be great. Melissa the Coach at gmail.com. You can give her a call, 910-338-9612. So, Kev, we were talking with Ned Erickson prior to, and so much kindredness kind of in what he was saying. And Ned, are you still on the line with us? Ned, you still there?
Looking forward to it.
Okay, cool. We
I'm
got
here.
you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, got you for a second. Then we had and Kevin and I were talking about the kindredness and kind of the messaging there. But Kev, did you want to kind of carry on with a further question for Ned?
Yeah, well, I was just saying in a long-winded way, we're in total agreement. The greatest form of obedience, once you're saved, is to understand who you are and live it out. And Ned has done that and doing that and wants to continue to do that with a yielded spirit. So it's just great. All right, so that said, let's talk about the ministry aspect. We're talking about the mission a minute ago, but the day-to-day, the work of your hands, your genius, that kind of stuff, Ned. Give us some specifics about right now, what's going on, what are you doing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I run a nonprofit called the Winston-Salem Fellows Program. It's sort of a hybrid program of that helps men and women who are passionate about their faith, but might feel called to a sector of society like government or law or health or business, social services, where they necessarily take class in college where they go, okay, how do you really about your faith in the marketplace? How do you think about your life holistically, And so we've developed a 10-month program for men and women as they're transitioning out of college into their careers, so 22, 26-year-olds. They come here and we get them a job in the field that they're interested in pursuing. They work during the week, and we come alongside them, around them, with a support system that is really strategically put together to help contextualize their life in terms of what does it really mean to integrate your faith. We call it a seamless life of faith. So what does it look like? So Sunday doesn't look any different than Monday. It doesn't look any different than Friday night or Saturday night. That you're one person trying to live out your mission. So we have a program that we've developed over the years where fellows work, but they also serve in the community together. They each get a mentor, so they have this kind of radical discipleship experience with another person. They live with a family, so they experience what it looks like to live in a Christian home and to build a family around the name of Jesus. They learn how to live in community with each other. So every week we have a family meal together. We go on trips together. We study the Word together. We play together. We pray for each other. So we're creating this intentional community that band of brothers and sisters that, you know, I think we were created for relationship, created for community. So without that, you know, I think you can work to your blue in the face, but you're not going to be a whole person until you are able to learn what it means to live with brothers and sisters in Christ. We've been, this is our third cohort we just finished. We're heading into our fourth year, and it has been beyond successful, just very rewarding, and been it's helped me in my faith. Just put it that way.
Well, that's all I can say is that it just confirms what God continues to say to us in our different cities, in our geographies, our state. He's doing this, and he's using the one body many parts model, right? This is it. So you're just you are another fantastic example of someone who's grabbed hold of this. So Matt, go ahead. I'm sure you've got another question or two, and then let's make sure folks know how to get in touch with him.
Yeah, Ned, I wanted you to share a little bit. You know, we were connected through a mutual friend, Rebecca McNeely, a good friend of ours from college, and she was telling me a little bit about what you have going on, not only with fellows, but also too kind of some of the extracurricular, if you will, things that you're doing. So you're going to be down this way in Wilmington, and I just wanted to let folks know a little bit about that. Kind of how that passion birthed for you, and then you know, how folks can kind of stay connected with you. Just to kind of give you a heads up, man, we've got like 3 or 4 minutes left in the segment here, so we'll make sure we get that info in.
Okay. Yeah. So there is. I'm sure many of your listeners in the Wilmington area have heard of a coffee shop down there called Biddy and Bose. It was the brainchild of some wonderful people that had this belief that men and women with intellectual and developmental disabilities still have right to dignity, the dignity of work. And so they created this beautiful coffee shop called Biddy and Bose, and it has been more than successful. And that beautiful idea that they've had has spread to Winston-Salem, and we are launching in our city a similar concept. It's not called Biddy and Bose, it's called Moji Coffee. And so to celebrate the grand opening of this new coffee shop in the heart of Winston-Salem, me and some other crazy friends are going to run nonstop from Biddy and Bose starting at 5 p.m. June 21st. We're going to run through the night. We're going to run all day Saturday. We're going to run all day Saturday night. And then we're going to arrive at 2 p.m. on the front doorstep of Moji Coffee with a couple hundred of our friends and have a big party and celebrate the grand opening of what I hope is going to be just a little beacon of sunshine in our city. We are also trying to raise money for Moji. They're a couple $1,000s short of their goal, so we are looking for folks who want to not just pray for us, but also support Moji financially, and just spread the love, spread the good news that part of the kingdom is our disabled bodies friends. And so we are just wanting to celebrate that and shine a big old spotlight on a part of the community that sometimes gets overlooked.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic, man. And of course, you know, that's dear to our heart as well. Like you said, part of the kingdom. So you said the 21st of June at 5 p.m.
5 p.m. we'll be at Biddy and Bose, and we've got a big old bus that will be in if we're not running, and we'll just be cruising west out of town on 70. Or is it 70? Yeah, 70 west, and then we'll be heading north to the Mountain Sea Trail and following that all the way to Raleigh, Burlington, Greensboro, into Winston.
Well, that's quite an undertaking, my friend. You rest up your legs. I'm tired thinking about it.
It's only like 300 and something miles.
Only. Only. I have a hard time driving 300 miles. Oh man. Well, Ned, man, thank you so much. Kev, did you have anything you wanted to close up with?
No, just we're brothers in arms. Thanks for coming on, Ned. We appreciate you, man.
Yeah, Ned, thanks so much, man. We appreciate you taking some time to share. Before we close, we just got a minute here. How can folks get connected with you, Ned? What's a good way that they can do that?
Yeah, our website is WinstonSalemFellows.com or WSFellows.com. Feel free to do that.
Okay.
We also have a pretty good blog following. It's nederickson.blogspot.com. We update that pretty frequently, so there's always good content on there. Moji Coffee is there's a link to that, but I think the website's mojicoffee.org, so
cool.
You can find out about them.
Awesome, man.
Right there.
Not to cut you off, Ned. We got to wrap up the segment here, man. But thank you so much just for your time, for what you're doing, and I just want to let our listeners know in Wilmington area, the 21st of June. Biddy and Bo's Coffee, front door steps. Y'all go give Ned a high five and support his efforts to run his way to Winston-Salem. So, Ned, thanks so much, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, brother. Well, have a good day. Kev, man, that's just encouraging to see, different parts of the state. Like you said, what God's doing is just powerful. So what a good thing.
He loves NC.
That's right, baby. He loves NC. Home of Billy Graham and the move is all coming back. Guys, Faith in Business back right after this. Hello and welcome back to Faith in Business, the second hour of our show, Wake Up Our Faith, where we help you live out your faith where you spend the majority of your time. That is between Sundays in business. Matt Ham, Kevin Adams, we're the co-founders of Uprint, a faith and personal development organization. That is the work we do. That's our mission, to help people uncover their genius, discover their why, live the life of impact they were created for. First couple of segments today, we were talking with Ned Erickson, who runs the Winston-Salem Fellows program. Has got some cool stuff going on. It's awesome to see this kindred move of God all over. When you pay attention to the move of God, there's unity in the spirit. So it's just awesome to see the work that he's doing in different geographical realms and all the same work. The corporate partners make this show possible. We want to make sure we thank them and recognize them. One of those being Physical Therapy Services of Wilmington. That's on the web at ptservicesofwilmington.com. Kev, kind of fun fact for our listeners, PT Services of Wilmington, Russ and his team were actually recognized by Encore Magazine as the physical therapy office in Wilmington. Wow. Voted by the people.
That's great.
So super cool, man. It's awesome to do business with great people. And
Yeah, they certainly deserve that accolade. But man, that's just great. What a pat on the back. And man, they're so just great people, experts, the best. So
yeah, it was awesome.
High five. Yeah.
ptservicesofwilmington.com, or if you want to give them a call, 910-763-8286. Congrats to Russ and his team for the recognition there. So Kev, we're diving into faith in business here. And we have a kind of a challenge. It's funny. We were talking with Ned. He's getting ready to run from Winston-Salem, or from Wilmington to Winston-Salem. Mm-hmm. And I think this ties in a little bit. It ties in a little bit here, just about accomplishment and achievement and things we do. So let's dive into this question. This is a good opportunity for us.
Well, we live in a city where there is lots of water and lots of sunshine, and that brings out a lot of athletic kind of endeavors. Right. And it's really kind of funny. I think it's cool, but at the same, because there's a youthful exuberance about it, no matter how old you are. But it kind of can get into that slippery slope of, this competitive nature that we see in humankind, but just on a different level in sports. So you got a 50-year-old guy running doing a triathlon, and it's just at some point you go, what's the point of all this? So. But in that vein, I'm not beating anybody up. I think if you can do it and you want to do it, and go for it. But living for accomplishment is sort of what we're talking about. So we would ask a question in a business environment, because it's so competitive. Typically, people think the literal meaning of business is competition, and that's just not true. But that's where we are. So the question would be, like in an office environment or in some type of environment. That we would ask is, what's your greatest accomplishment. So immediately, you just go back in your experience, and if you ask that of different people at different levels in the work environment, how would they answer? So what would be, what do you think? What would be some of the typical, just general?
This is a great social experiment. I want people to go do this and tell us what you hear.
Yeah.
Ask people, what's your greatest accomplishment?
Yeah.
I think immediately my heart, my head, I should say, not my heart, went to accomplishments in business. You win trips, or you have this success, and
Sure.
You get these plaques, and you have these things that you kind of say, this is my greatest accomplishment. And I know you've been there as well. And
do you have any of your trophies from when you were a kid?
do I know? But my mom does.
Oh,
Much love to my mom. My mom keeps these things, right? She's so great at keeping stuff, and she has this little box, and we've gone through it in time and thrown out a bunch of it. But the one thing that stands out is like the baseball, the first home run baseball, But it's funny. It's just a baseball. And it's not even in my house. It's in her attic.
That's all right. Some things are sentimental, but it had a bunch of trophies, plastic. It was glued on glittery stuff, and
Right.
It's like at some point 30 years ago they fell apart and got trashed. And what is this about anyway? That old jacket with a patch on it.
Right.
But when you ask that question, the idea is, what do you think people are going to say? And I think that the common idea would be people are going to think back, just like you said, about what they have actually done in their own strength. And so we ask the question to sort of bring about and contrast the difference between being faithful as your greatest accomplishment, or yielding and letting go and letting God be, you are His greatest accomplishment, living that out. So, but it helps because it challenges people to really look at that from a look what I've done kind of point of view, and holding their value in that versus holding their value in what He's done by creating us, by saving us, and by opening the door. We're talking to Ned a few minutes ago, and we share this conviction that his outfit and ours, that your greatest obedience is to live out, to understand who you are and to live it out, because we're God's idea, right? So that becomes flips the model over. So it's a good challenge question.
Do you think there's a deepening level of the answer? You know how it's like, as you age, you get wiser, you get more mature, and so your answer to these questions change. There's an initial thing of like, well, this is my business accomplishment. And then you kind of talk to someone who's maybe a little bit more mature down the road, and it's like, well, being a great father, or even what I've done for the community,
Right.
to the utmost, which is what you're saying is
Right.
actually the greatest accomplishment in my life is surrendering to the Lord.
Yeah, that's it. And it's. I think that all the other accomplishments are fantastic. I mean, people do amazing things, and that's we're not trying to poop on that.
Yeah.
We're just saying that doesn't need to be the foundation. The foundation, we all get smart. We're all smart enough to give the right answer, or what I would call the marketing brochure, but we're throwing that out because at the end of the day, you got to put your fresh undies and your deodorant on and act like you're a human being, and there's human debris and you stink and you got to eat, and we're all the same. We're not animals, but we kind of act like it. So at the same time, we want to appreciate the differences between us. We also have to recognize that our greatest accomplishment, if we're a Christian, is to yield to what God has done. We are His handiwork. Remember last segment we talked about He loves us, but He also likes us. So I think the greatest accomplishment any of us can have is to surrender to that. And that means we've got to let go of our own will and then understand what He's saying to us, what He's doing, what are the desires of our heart. Start carrying that out. That means He gets the glory and we get the victory. It's beautiful. So it's a lot, but there's a lot more to it, but
Yeah, I think it's a powerful thought too. Is like if you could venture back through the heroes of faith and ask them what their greatest accomplishment was, right? If you could go back and you could ask Jacob, or you could ask Joseph or David or Daniel, like, what is your greatest accomplishment? That's a powerful exercise in the Spirit to just let the Spirit speak about what that would be. And I immediately think about Hebrews 11, which is the Hall of Faith.
Yeah.
And that's what it talks about, though.
Yeah.
It shows what God did. That's right. Because of their faith.
Yeah.
That's what this is about.
That's right. Where were you when I made the horse, Job? I mean, that's... that just socks it right to you. Of course, Job was in; he got it. But and I love that section. But also think about Paul. And I'm not saying Paul wrote Hebrews, by the way. I don't think we know who wrote it. But the point, I'm just jumping.
Kevin,
to Paul.
give me your theological reasons why Paul wrote Hebrews.
Forget it.
It'll make you mad more than a heartbeat.
I hope he did, but it could have been Barnabas. Who knows? All right, so. Paul said, I count it all rubbish. He had all of it. This guy was a stud. He was just so bright. He had clout. He had everything, Roman citizenship. And just, he was an iconic dude. So kind of guys being groomed for a CEO of a, Fortune 500. So, but he said, I count it all rubbish. That right there sums it up. There is no accomplishment. There is allowing God to accomplish through you. And so when you take that into the context of business, which is where we spend most of our time during the week, in some form of exchange or commerce, or, every day, it's learning the starting point and allowing God to work through you is a great place to start. It sounds simple, but, we tend to be high on ourselves. So if we start by yielding, recognizing, then anyway.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Here we go. We're going to take a break. I was just making sure we saw the clock. Guys, you are listening to Faith in Business. Great challenge question. We got the last segment here wrapping up right after this. Hello and welcome back to Faith in Business, the second hour of our show, Wake Up Our Faith, where we talk about how we can live out our faith where we spend the majority of our time, which is in business. Matt Ham, Kevin Adams, we're the co-founders of Uprint. I want to let those listening know that, if you're looking for someone to walk through this with you, that is kind of an entire division of our organization where we walk with folks intimately, one-to-one, through biblical counseling, executive coaching, and mentoring. It is phenomenal. Kevin heads that up. We've got, gosh, Kev, probably 10, 12, 15 folks right now that we're walking with and have worked with many more over the years. It's awesome to see this community growing, people really, kind of breaking free, and it's super encouraging. Right. So if you have any interest in that, you can reach out to us, info@uprint.life. I want to make sure we recognize our corporate partners, one of those being Century 21 Swalyer & Associates, more than 30 years experience in the real estate industry here in southeastern North Carolina, the Carolina's largest, most successful Century 21 agency. Congrats to Jeff and his team on that achievement. Give them a call, 910-256-0021. The market right now is fantastic, by the way, if you're in the market for buying or selling a home. So, Kev, wrapping up the last segment here.
Yeah. So, the idea is if you ask Jesus or maybe a disciple, I think Jesus is kind of set apart in some ways from us as our Savior. In other ways, not. He's our leader. He's the son. We get to be a son or daughter. We get to follow behind him and live this out as the body. But that said, the question would be, what is your greatest accomplishment in business? That context, and I think the answer, the foundational answer that shows your heart, our sort of amended version of this would be the most important thing about your greatest accomplishment is that it provides you with your greatest opportunity to practice humility. So, let that sink in a little bit. And, I'm not saying that to you. We've been through this many times and teach other people this, but think that through a minute. Just let it rest on your heart that maybe the greatest, most important thing about your greatest accomplishment, no matter what that is, especially in business, is that it provides you with your greatest opportunity to practice humility. Your heart gets going, your adrenaline gets going, you feel what I call the pitter-pat. And man, how do you steward that well? It's a huge opportunity to, at the very first, practice humility, to withhold. And then, of course, glorify God. As people point at you, you're pointing up. And and you mean it.
Yeah, not just the faux humility. It's like, oh well, just
right.
glory to,
right,
glory to. And then I'm not picking a fight with anybody, but just be honest about the heart.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest things that I feel like is damaging to us as believers and the move of God is when people begin to take credit for what He's doing.
Yeah, that's right. Instead of understanding that we're co-laboring, we get to be a part of it. We're the surgical glove, He's the hand. We're going to do brain surgery together. It's powerful. But, taking credit for it, even in that subtle place where you don't do it verbally, but somewhere in the dark of night, look what I did. And that's the difference between being a slave and groveling and being a son, and understanding that you don't have to do it. You just let Him do it through you. So, steward it well. That's our first segment, our first section, first show, I guess. Sorry, getting it all mixed up, is about stewarding your moment well. So in business, how do you do that? Start to look at your accomplishment as a place to practice humility and let God work through that. And God will raise you up. And when you are pointing to Him with everything in you and your heart is about giving Him glory, watch the ways that He will open up doors for you and even vindicate you when you've been betrayed or treated poorly.
Yeah.
He always does it. We've seen it so many times. Scripture is obviously chock full of it. So I wanted to just take a minute here and talk about an example in our community. When we were working, we did some work at Live Oak Bank in the past couple years, doing some lunch and learns and faith and business kind of stuff. And, you were interviewing Chip Mahan, the the young guy. I say young, I think he's late 60s.
Yeah.
Sharp guy, amazing heart, real true Christian, but a guy that has lived it out through business, right? What an example. So in that, we came up with some questions to ask him, and and so just take a second and talk about this. But when the question was posed, what do you want to be remembered for? Do you remember?
Yeah. In fact, I almost said it was so awesome you did this, because part of me felt this in the previous segment.
So go ahead and so the question was, what do you want to be remembered for? Now this guy could be remembered for a whole lot of things, especially you've got all kind of people knocking down his door that want his esteem. So but do you remember what he said?
Yeah. He on the heels of winning the Entrepreneur of the Decade for Wilmington Business Journal or whatever,
started internet banking.
Yeah. He said, I don't want to be remembered for any of it. Something to that effect.
Yeah. Yeah. And but he meant it.
Yeah. He was dead serious. He looked at me and goes, nothing. And I was like,
yeah.
What?
It wasn't the smart guy answer.
Yeah.
It wasn't the I go to church every Sunday answer. It was like, nah, man. You could tell he had already been satisfied, not with wealth and all these other things that he has, but just that he has lived out what God called him to do. And it has blessed so many people. So he's a great example. And I know we don't have a lot of time, but the thing that this comes to, and we're all different, we speak differently, we think differently, but truly, your greatest accomplishment begins with humility. And humility, especially in people like Chip, humility is the giant that only looks small to small people. So when you see someone at that level being esteemed to be that humble and mean it, or someone who has nothing and they're catching butterflies behind the barn and no one knows the work they're doing, they're equal and they're both important in the work of their hands. But the common ground is we look at them differently on the surface,
Yes.
but God doesn't. And so humility is really a giant. And we see that when you want to see a giant, look at someone with a humble heart, truly.
Yeah. It's funny. You mentioned the homeless person. I heard a story recently of a woman in Africa who had lost 3 children to AIDS. She was sick herself, and the missionary workers, and this is who I heard this from,
Sure.
went over there, and she's in a hut the size of this table. And the woman looked at her and said, "What do you want me to tell my friends back in the West?" She said, "Tell them how good Jesus is."
Yeah.
And
That's great.
that contrasted against this man who's literally revolutionized internet
Right.
banking and so much for the city of Wilmington.
Right, and he would agree with
Yes,
that.
absolutely. Both of them would say the same thing.
Right.
That is the heart of the gospel.
Yeah. So we don't chase after people who accomplished great things. We chase after God in allowing. He gets us. He plays hide and seek with us to get us to participate. He doesn't require that we chase him. We talked about this before, but it's an adventure. Mm-hmm. It's a childlike adventure, and it's fun. It's not striving. Mm-hmm. There's a big difference there in following versus relentlessly chasing. You don't have to do that. But one thing I did want to squeeze in here before we close out in a minute. Think of it this way: when you act you start your day with a foundation of trusting that God's going to accomplish great things through you, and in that, people are going to point to you. You don't have to ever worry about that or even want that. But it's not a woe is me thing. But this is the beautiful thing about co-laboring with God, about jumping in and when God sees something. This is another text from another day that went out in our community as an encouragement. But when God sees something that looks like himself, his presence will increase to fill it and perpetuate his cause within it. Therefore, we must act like a son instead of a slave, and our life will become a better investment for him. It's a mouthful, but this is how God operates. Mm-hmm. So if you're standing in a truly humble, excited, adventurous place, trusting him to raise you up and use you, he sees something that looks like himself, and he will fill it and perpetuate his cause through it every time. So
yeah, it's beautiful, guys. He has not changed in any capacity. He still is wanting to deliver his people to victory, and just wants to be honored in the process.
It's Paul saying, "I count it all rubbish." He let go of it, and then God used him to change the world. Yeah,
beautiful, beautiful stuff. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in today. This has been Wake Up Our Faith, Faith in Business. Matt Ham, Kevin Adams, co-founders of Uprint. Want to invite you guys to dive in with us. We always ask to start off with a conversation. Let us know where you are. We'd love to come alongside and help. We've got some great resources to do that. Get connected at uprint.life, YOUPRINT.LIFE. See you next week.